Okay, I think I got this going. I guess you can't do lives sideways. I thought you could, but I guess not. So, I am going to show you guys what I do making UV resin with dried pressed flowers. I'm really excited. I do use J Diction, okay? And I try to use pressed flowers if at all possible. They just make it a little bit easier. I already handpicked some of the flowers I'm going to be using today. So I'm really excited. Go ahead and get started. So I always like the first start. Let me get tape. Hold on. There's something in there. So anytime you start a UV resin or any resin, you want to clean it off. I did, but somehow something got on there again. So I'm just using resin tape and it will clean whatever's in there. And it's on the other side. There we go. Okay, much better. That was driving me crazy. So I'm just going to make a necklace with some UV resin. So I'm going to first put my first layer in. And then I use my, I have these are little UV resin type things to help move the resin around. I am really quick going to put my gloves on before I go any further. You do want to use protection because it is resin and it is can be dangerous. I'm not using gas mask because J Diction is very non-toxic and does not smell, so I don't have any issues with that. So I'm just spreading it. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a gun, which is a heat gun, so I can heat it up, get the bubbles out, and so I can really move it. And I do notice that when the resin gets heated with a heat gun, it starts to shrink a little bit. And all of a sudden you have less room than what you thought you did, or more room. And as you could tell, it literally just moved to one side. So I'm just going to move this around, put a little bit more in. Oops, once again, I'm going to use my heat gun to get those bubbles out and then move that UV resin around. Okay, so I'm just literally tilting it. I have to get this in here. There we go. Perfect. Perfect, perfect. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to run that heat gun on it one more time. There are a few bubbles in there, and I find the heat gun to be a lot easier. Sorry. Just getting a couple of those bubbles out. So now I'm going to use my UV light. And I'm just going to do it for 90 seconds. And this is just the first layer. So I like to do a first layer first because I find it gives it sort of like a glass look on each side. So I always end each side with one layer. Now I am using just the regular J. Diction UV resin. I do have some high velocity coming to make sort of like a dome, and I'll do another video on that in regards. So it makes it really nice. But right now, the main point when you're doing pressed flowers is you want to do it in layers. And it's small, thin layers, because when you do it either any other way, I notice it tends to get a lot of bubbles. So this is the way I have found. Now, because we are live, I obviously can't just like fast forward or speed it up. So we have to wait the full 90 seconds. But I'm really excited about the flowers I'm choosing. So those are some of the flowers I picked out. Now, the ones that are not pressed, I'm obviously going to have to soak those first in resin before I even try to use them. Okay. You always want to test this out. Perfect. I like to also check the other side. I don't see any bubbles whatsoever. So we are good to go to start with this next layer. Now, before we go any further, let me move those a little bit higher. Okay. Before we go any further, we do want to always add a thin layer of resin before we put our flowers in. And you're going to keep it wet until we get the look that we're going for. So we're just going to spread this around. What this does when you do it layer by layer like this and you're adding is it helps to not create the bubbles underneath the flowers. So now I need to get my tweezers out. Very important to have tweezers. I like to also check out both sides of the flower to see which one is the best. And now what I do is I press it in. I want to make sure that layer of resin that's underneath gets on all sides. Okay. You can move it around a little bit. Once it's wet and it's in there, you can do whatever. So I think for the next one, I do get my flowers from Amazon. And those are the purple ones. I guess I could do a purple one with the blue. So the way you would do it is just cut one of them. That's a little bit too big though. Oops. This one's too big. I want to try to find one that's around the same size. that one's perfect. And sorry about my dog. He likes to bark at everything. Now just like the blue, I'm pushing it in, making sure it gets all wet. I'm not going to put any more resin in there until I use my UV light. But I want to get it. Okay. So we're going to use the UV light. 90 seconds is all you need. Because these layers are so thin, you just need the 90 seconds. But I do find, as you can tell over here, that the pressed flowers are much easier to use when you're creating these type of jewelry necklaces, because there's, for one, the spaces are so small, and two, it's just it's a lot easier to soak it into the resin. And this is the part where it gets a little boring because we're just waiting for the resin to cure. I will be doing live videos on all my social media today. So if, and it's not going to be the same. Each one will have something a little bit different. So if you are interested in doing one or seeing one that's a little bit different than this, definitely follow me. Yeah, I'm thinking of doing perfect. So again, we're going to test this out. Perfect. It's all hard and cured. So what we're going to do is we're going to put a little bit more. Now I'm going to use the heat gun to spread that out and also get any air bubbles. As I just blew all kinds of flowers away. It's the only thing about doing it like this is, okay. Okay, I think it looks really good. So I'm going to go ahead and use the UV light. Let me. At this time, I'm going to do 150 seconds. Just because this is a thicker layer that I put a lot more than the just real small layers. And I want to make sure everything cures. And then I'll show you what I can do next. What's really exciting is the next layer. This is where if you wanted to add a colored background, which I plan on doing, you can do that. And I'm going to be using mica powders. Again, we're just letting this cure before we go on to the next step. It's important that you give it enough time. And you do it in the layers just because it makes it less bubbly, a lot easier to do. Okay. Let's go ahead and test it. Make sure there's no soft spots. That's not moving. And it looks good. Awesome. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get my mixing. I'm going to get a mixing cup. And I'm going to set this aside for right now until I mix up my colors. And I think I'm going to do shimmer. So I'm doing this little piggy shimmer. I'm going to get myself a stick. I like to hold the lid up a little bit when I first open it. So if there's anything flying around, it sort of settles back down. Also, please make sure you're wearing a mask when you're using these. Okay. Before we go any further, we're going to close this. Not sure if you just saw all that just went up. That's just why you wear a mask. Okay, now we're going to pour. I like to make sure it gets really wet before I start mixing. And I like, when I first start mixing mica powders, I start slow. Really try to get everything wet. And if I need to add more, like I do, then I just add more. The nice thing about mica powders is you you can add very little or a lot. It doesn't really matter. It's a lot different than when you're adding like alcohol inks and other stuff where you just want, a good like 10%. Here I am scraping the sides. As you could tell, there was still a lot that was not mixed well. But this is such a pretty color. Again, this is Shimmer from TLP. Add a little bit more. Since I'm going to be doing multiple pieces today, whatever I don't use for this one piece, I'll have more for others. And what's nice about UV resin is it does not cure until it goes under that light. Unlike regular epoxy resin. Okay. Very pretty. So now I just want to make sure this did not close properly. Okay. So now we're going to bring this piece back. And I just did. Okay. Put too much on. And if you ever put too much on, then you can use your sanding tools to sand it down. There we go. I'm going to use the heat gun to get bubbles out and to make it nice. Okay. Looks good. I'm going to use the UV resin on it now. Because this one is mixed with mica powder, I like to do the 150 seconds. That way I can make sure everything is being mixed. So we're just waiting until this gets cured. For this one, you definitely want to make sure it's cured all the way just because it has the mica powder. So if it seems like it's too soft or if it's moving, I might even cure the bottom of it. And if I have to, I'll show you. It's pretty easy to do. But it's really pretty color. And I probably could have done not put so much, but I went ahead and just did a lot. It's already cured a lot. Definitely moving around. So we're going to do another 150 seconds. We really want to make sure it's not moving around and so forth. If you ever have issues getting your table level, I use this J Diction in regards to making sure I have a level table. It's really nice. So we're just waiting for it to be cured. It's still moving a lot. What I'm going to do, okay, for one, that's insanely beautiful. You can see it. So, sounds strange, but I'm going to cure it from this side because this will get the other side as well. So, if you ever need to do that, you could just flip it over, hold it with one hand, and put the UV light on. So you make sure it's nice and cured. But that came out really good. I'm really excited. Really excited to see how this came out. So again, I'm literally flipping this over and curing this side just because it is mica powder and it was a little bit on the thick side. So, and it was still moving. I want to make sure everything is hardened on all sides. And this is the side that was clear, so it will definitely get the undertones of that mica powder and make sure everything is hard. Let's see how that, let's check to see if it's still moving. And it is still moving. So, I'm going to flip it like this. So then it gets that side. while that is doing that, I'm going to turn on another light because it's a little bit on the dark side in here. I didn't realize how dark it was. Again, we're just making sure that everything is cured. This is another way to make sure that it stops moving. Okay. So what I'm going to do, it's a little bit on the strange side, but to make sure it's getting the sides, I'm going to also do it this way too, because I feel like it's not being cured all the way. Because you want to make sure that UV light is getting into all corners, especially when you're using mica powders. Let's just let it sit on top. It's definitely getting harder, but it's still moving. You don't want it to move. And if you guys have questions, I would love to hear. Again, we're just waiting. I should probably move this so it's not so close. Definitely don't want to cure this so we can reuse it. But I think with this... Hello, I'm just curing this beautiful piece I just did. I'll show you what it looks like. So it's thick mica powder. Okay, so we're just going to do one more layer of the resin. I do this because I like to have it sort of like glass-like on each side. This not only helps to get the bubbles out, but also helps to move it too. Now all the bubbles. This one should only take about 90 seconds because it's just a thin layer. But it's going to give it a nice glass finish look on the back. So the mica powder is all protected. And of course, you know, when you're done, you can, you know, sand it down, the edges and stuff, make it real nice. And I do have some high velocity resin coming, which I'll be able to show making those dome-like on top. Because I have some jewelry pieces that I made. This is one of them. And I want to make sure it's protected. It has, you can't really, there you go. It goes in a little bit. So the high velocity is going to make a nice little dome on top of that. This is the back side. It doesn't look really nice. Sorry, I'm trying to figure out which way to move it. But I want to make a nice little dome on top of that. Here's some other pieces I did. This is made with the Caston opaque and using a toothpick. Another piece I did, which I thought, it's very dark, so it's hard to see. I mean, it's pretty, but okay. Not moving. We'll just do one more just to be on the safe side on a 90. It's better to be safe than sorry. But I think what I'm going to do next is I'm going to actually soak these in some resin, UV resin, so I can use them. I really like these. These are so pretty. Oops. And this I thought was really cool. So I want to see if I could soak this in resin, if I can use it. Because I thought, gosh, that looks so cool looking. I thought that'd be a pretty piece. So either by itself or, oops, I'm so sorry, or with the flowers. But I really like this piece I did. It's more prettier on the back, actually, but okay. Looks good. Now for the reveal. Again, there's lots of little pieces I'm going to have to obviously sand, but this is what it looks like. It's very pretty. Very, very pretty. There's the sides. Obviously, you could tell with the mica powder, it wasn't even on all the sides, but that is just so pretty. So that's how you get it. I'll do another video on how to get the edges looking nice and trimmed. But just cut off a few pieces. I'll have to obviously sand it in the back. I've got some clippings coming, so I'll be able to do that and then put it on a necklace. Yeah, it's pretty. Okay. Thanks for watching.